Good evening. Heritage here, week 5, wholesaling real estate. This week, we will talk about lead conversion, the do's and don'ts to dealing with motivated sellers. I'm your instructor, your guest, your host, Tim Heritage. This is one of my favorite parts about um, buying houses because this is one of those parts that can set you apart from the crowd and make you more money if you do it right. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that can lose you money if you do it wrong. I always start with a little bit of a reminder about this business. One of the things I want to remind you is, why do people sell to us, right? Why do they pick to sell to a real estate investor for a discount? Why did someone with $1 million home sell it to me for $500,000 last week? The reason is often, as we talked about last week, one of the 5Fs. They have a family issue that needs to be addressed. Could be an elderly parent, could be, Lord, one of the best deals I've ever gotten was a mom that the daughter was a week away from moving to college, and the mom just couldn't imagine being half a country away from the daughter. And the week before the daughter was supposed to leave, the mom just decided, I'm moving. And she needed to be able to pack up her things and leave with her daughter, and needed to get rid of the house in order to make that happen. And it's one of those things that the offer I made was not a high number, but it was a good enough number to meet her needs. And I remember the lady, I wish I could remember her name, crying at the kitchen table that she was going to be able to move with her daughter and not have to worry about the house. So, family issues, financial issues. We're entering an interesting time in the United States. They're saying that recession is going to hit. Obviously, we've got a little bit of an economic crisis with the COVID going on, but financial issues range from anything from loss of job to bankruptcy or recessions, pandemics, etc. Funerals, like I say, dead people don't need a house. Fumigation, I joke around and say that because I have bought cat houses, rat houses, squirrel houses, things like that, cockroach houses, and fun. Sometimes people have just lived in a house long enough and not taken care of it enough to where they're ready to just move on with their life. And one of the issues I've got right now is a seller that's got some medical issues, and they have decided they're moving to Colorado, and they're moving to Colorado before the winter gets bad. And so they've decided, they pulled the trigger and they're moving. And that's just because they're at the age, they're retired, they want to go have fun. You've got to make it easy for them. The example I use a lot of times with my sellers and with students is, think about the 7-Eleven convenience store. If you don't have 7-Elevens where you're at, any sort of convenience store, you don't go to 7-Eleven and pay $5 for a gallon of milk because you want to waste money. You go and pay $5 for a gallon of milk because you can get that gallon of milk and get on with your life much easier than going to the Kroger and parking in the 20-acre parking lot and going to the back right-hand corner of the store to get the milk and waiting in line behind the two people in the county that still use checkbooks to pay for their groceries. And so it's time and convenience for a price. That's why they sell it to you. And the convenience is the part that you have to sell and upsell and remind them about throughout the process. And it's all about reliability. It's like FedEx, on time, every time. And I highly urge that if you're going to be in this business, that you commit to doing things in a very timely manner. That's why the transaction management portion of this course is at the end, because transaction management is the way that you make sure things happen on time, every time, and that your customers are happy. Because at the end of the day, that's the reason they're selling to you. They're selling to you because you are going to make it fast, easy, simple, and reliable, which is all of the things that people do not view realtors and the traditional market process as. So we talked last week about advertising, getting your phone to ring, but let's say your phone is ringing. What do? Your job is to determine two things. We talked last week about the numbers have to work and there has to be motivation. And your job on the first phone call is to determine two things. Are they motivated and do the numbers work? Now, excuse me, oftentimes you will not be able to determine fully that the numbers work on the phone, but you can figure out fairly easily if you have someone that is motivated and if they're willing to take the sort of discount that you're probably going to need. So if someone says, well, I could sell it with a realtor, but I don't want to pay closing costs, that's not, necessarily an indication of the numbers are going to work, right? So we use what's called a discount statement. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some links where we can get scripts. And the discount statement is something like, now, Ryan, you understand I'm an investor. So I buy houses and sell them for a profit. So I don't pay market value and I pay less than just market value minus commissions because I have to pay those when I sell the house. Do you understand? And you have a conversation because if you get the calls a lot, well, the house is worth 100 and if you'll give me 104 and I don't have to pay 6%, or you give me 94 and I don't have to pay 6%, well, I'll sell it to you. It's like, well, that's not the way it works. I've got to make a living. This is how I feed my family. There's no sense in trying to negotiate a deal with a lead that does not meet these criteria. It's a complete waste of time. We call them tire kickers, right? And you need to answer the phone every time or have an answering service do it. And we'll talk about that in a minute and it'll make more sense. And just keep it simple. What's it worth? What's it need? What can I get it for? These are oftentimes things that sellers will tell you. They'll tell you they think the house is worth 150,000. They'll tell you that they think it needs foundation work and roof work, etc. And they'll tell you what they want for the house. Now, many times there's a dance, and that dance is one that they think if they tell you 50, you're going to offer them 40. Or if they tell you 400, you're going to offer them 200. And, you can weed through that just by having good interpersonal people skills and just talking to people. And it's not a game. It's not something that you're trying to, I don't believe in one call closes. They do happen sometimes. I mean, I have had people call me on the phone and say, I'll take 100,000. And you look at it and you're like, I'll give you 100,000. But many times it's simply learning how to put your offer in the right light to where it solves the motivation, which is why the motivation is so important when evaluating the transaction. So, what do you say when you answer the phone? First and foremost, answer the phone. That sounds a little silly, but imagine that you get home from work and you have a water heater in the attic and the water heater is overflowing. It's burst. And you have water pouring through the ceiling in your kitchen. Are you going to leave a message for a plumber? No. Are you going to schedule an appointment for an appointment window for sometime next week? No. So the thing is, you've got to answer your phone because many times the situation has been building. It has been getting worse and worse and worse. Many times the sellers are faced with mounting circumstances that eventually the culmination of those circumstances becomes too much to bear. And once it's too much to bear, they need a solution, and they pick up the phone and they're going to call, and you want to answer the phone and just have a conversation. And out of the conversation, you want to garner some of these important items. And you'll see on the slide it says ask questions but don't interrogate. So this is where I tell you, I ask you, do you like calling customer service at AT&T? And sometimes I have AT&T people on the line, and they don't really like that call, that answer, that scenario. But the point is, most people don't like calling tech support or customer service at a large company and being asked question after question after question after question, specifically if you have a need that feels urgent or important to you at that time. If you have a need that feels urgent or important at that time, you just want someone to take care of your problem, right? You don't want them to ask a bunch of questions about rebooting the router. You want to go ahead and just get it rebooted and move on down with your life. And the same thing goes with a motivated seller. And so the goal of this conversation, and what we're going to do is, after this presentation, I'm going to post 3 or 4 MP3s inside the member portal that you can download and listen to. And those MP3s will show you kind of how it's done. And what I'm going to pick is one MP3 that is what we would call a lay down, someone that is very easy to talk to and very forthcoming with information. One of them is going to be a busybody. So yesterday, and I already know which one I'm going to post. It's yesterday. I was on the phone for 19 minutes with a seller. It's an estate. The brother that's the executor called, and he had a lot of questions, and I couldn't be impatient with him, and I had to really just take my time. I think I answered multiple questions multiple times each, and then I'll post a very confrontational call where, I mean, we get confrontational calls where people call and scream at us because how dare you send my mother this postcard? She died. You're an ambulance chaser and all that. We get people that say we're trying to steal their house. All sorts of things. So what we're going to do is I'm trying to look for it. I'm going to post several different real world examples that are recent, and let you listen to them and go back and reference them, and you'll feel the art of it. And when you marry that with the strip, with the script, I'll just tell you what you have to do is find your balance, right? It's not a balance, it's your balance, because your balance with your personality, with your business model, it's your balance will guide you through the conversation. It's got to be a conversation. It can't, I'll probably say this 100 times. It's not a script, right? It's got to be a conversation. So here's I was looking for the text message I got yesterday. It was so funny. I don't know how many calls and cards I get wanting my house. I'll sell it for $5 million. Thank you. Let me know if you want to pay $5 million. And I thought it was hilarious, to be honest. And I did not reply. I'm in my youth, I would have replied with some funny things. But I didn't. But anyway, the point is you want to ask questions, but don't interrogate. And we'll talk about the 2-question rule. So the 2-question rule in military intelligence, what we learned was anytime you ask someone more than 2 questions at a time in a row, then you are putting them in a psychological position where they feel as if they're being interrogated. So, in my youth, we're going to keep talking about my youth. I don't claim youth anymore. What you be talking about, you go out with the guys or the gals, and you come home, and your spouse or significant other is sitting in the living room, or let's just say you're a teenager and you get home and your dad's sitting there in the recliner in the kitchen in the living room, and it's 50 questions, right? Where have you been? Who were you with? Why didn't you call? Blah, blah, blah. Well, after about the second question, it's scientifically proven that you begin to check out. You begin to go into fight or flight mode. And the same is true with these motivated sellers, right? They don't want you just blowing through your questions. They want to have a conversation. So if you ask someone, "Oh, well, tell me," that it's you'll hear on our recordings and on the script. One of the first things we do is, "Hey, good afternoon. This is Tim. Hey, Tim, I got your postcard. Oh, great. How are you today? Good, thanks. Yeah, so I've got a house in Dallas that we're thinking about selling. Oh, okay, great. Well, my name is Tim Harridge. I own the company. What was your name? Right. And that's a question that is not offensive. It's not flying in their face. It's just a question, right? Hey, my name's Tim. What's your name? Oh, I'm Bill. Oh, okay, Bill. Nice to meet you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the house? And at this point, if you're like me, sometimes a talker, sometimes someone that wants to blow through the information and get to the win or the loss and move on. At that point, if you're one of those people, sometimes you got to say, "So tell me about the house," and then put your phone on mute so you don't interrupt the person while they're telling you about the house. Because many, many, many times they will tell you everything and more with that one question. Tell me about the house. Sometimes they'll say, "Well, it's a house in Dallas." Oh, okay, Bill. Well, do you live there? Nope. Oh, all right, all right. Well, and this is where instead of asking just another question like "Where is it?" or I'd be like, "Well, hey, I've been buying houses for a long time in Dallas. There's a lot of great parts of Dallas. Which part of Dallas is your house in?" And they say, "Oh, Pleasant Grove." Oh, okay, great, great. Well, hey, Bill, Pleasant Grove is one of those neighborhoods I really like. So you see what I'm doing now? I'm not just keep asking. I don't just keep asking questions, because the next thing is like, "Well, what's the address? You know, who lived there?" There's all these questions you have, but what you're trying to do is slowly break through natural human defensiveness with just conversation. So "Oh, Bill, great. You said you don't live there. Did you used to live there? Did you inherit it? Can you tell me a little bit more about it?" You're just trying to get the person talking. "Well, my mom and my dad live there. They passed away. We're gonna sell." Oh, and this is when anytime someone says someone passed away, I always take a minute to just take a step back and say, "You know what, Bill? First, just let me say I'm sorry to hear about the loss that your family's going through." And almost always, 9 times out of 10, they say, "Well, thank you." And what you're doing is you're slowly whittling away at the defensiveness just by being a nice person. Some of you may not be nice people. That may be hard for you, but everybody's got it in them. You just have to just calm down and just, roll with it and try to have a conversation, because eventually, "Well, okay, great, Bill. Your parents passed away. Like I said, I'm sorry to hear that. The house is in Pleasant Grove. You want to give me the address or tell me a little bit about why you're calling today?" "Well, got this postcard. Don't you know the address?" And at that point, if someone's being really difficult, I'm like, "Well, Bill, we send out a lot of postcards, and we think that we provide a time and convenience for a price. I'm just going to need some information about the house, like the address, the repairs, the condition, any upgrades, anything that's really needed. That way I can do my research and then set an appointment. And that way we can, I can be as educated as possible when I get there. Right. So sometimes you got to like break them down and just give them the reason behind the questions. And like I said, I'm going to give you those MP3 recordings. It'll help you out. But I mean, the bottom line is you're trying to, and there's 9,000 ways this can go. But you just have to be patient because you don't want to just get the name, address, phone number, set an appointment and get off the phone. Because the goal is when you arrive, you want Bill remembering that he spoke to Tim and waiting for Tim to arrive, looking forward to Tim arriving. You don't want Bill saying, "Oh yeah, I don't know, that company's sending somebody out here." Right? That's the not the desired outcome of the conversation. So then so we've already determined Bill's motivation, right? He inherited the house. Like I said, dead people don't need a house. That's why he's selling. Now, in the wrap up, sometimes I ask them what they owe early on. Sometimes they'll tell you they don't owe anything. Sometimes I'll say, "Hey, Bill, you have a price in mind?" No, we're just getting offers. Okay, great. Well, what about the mortgage? Have you been able to get that put into your name? See, what I'm doing there is I'm trying to find out if they owe anything without specifically asking if they owe anything. Because if they don't owe anything, they're going to say, "Oh, there is no mortgage." Oh, okay, great. Well, and if you're still trying to build rapport and credibility with the person, well, just ask, because sometimes when people inherit a house, they have difficulty getting the mortgage switched over into their name. But then you want to ask the price they're looking for, and then you want to set the appointment on the initial phone call. And here's why. If you call and I say I'll call you back without an appointment and you don't answer, what happens next? I have to keep calling you, right? Now I'm like the guy that got the girl's phone number at the bar and I'm tracking her down. But if I say, "All right, great, Bill, thanks for all this information. I'm going to do a lot of research. And when I show up, I'll be ready to discuss your specific house once I see the inside of it." Today's Tuesday. Would Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning work? Or would you rather do Thursday afternoon at 3? And that's where Bill says, "You know what? Can't do a weekday. It's going to have to be a weekend. Could you do Saturday morning?" And at that point, see, you've actually flipped the script on Bill, because now he's asking you if you can do Saturday morning, right? Now he's asking you. He feels like he's inconvenienced you. So you don't say when's a good time, because then you're going to get in the hem-haw. It's like asking your wife where you want to go to dinner, right? And what I've learned with my wife specifically is if I say, "Hey, baby, let's go to Snuffers and eat a hamburger," the answer is no. And then I say, "Great, let's go over to Sake Bomb and get some fried rice." The answer is no. And then my wife says, "I want to go to Zanata and eat pizza." And I say, "Great." That's the whole point of this. You want to set the appointment. You offer 2 times that work for you. And ideally they pick a time, but if not, then they feel as if they have to accommodate you because they feel like they've kind of psychologically inconvenienced you. May sound silly, but it works. So preparing for the appointment, this is what people really do wrong. You want to be as prepared as possible. So when you have the address, you're going to hop over into IREI or whatever, or Propelio or whatever your comps platform is, and you're going to pull 12 months worth of comps, all statuses. We want actives, we want pendings, we want off markets, we want expireds, we want solds, we want leased comps, we want canceled listings, we want lots and lands, we want everything within a quarter to a half mile within the last 12 months. Because when we get there, I'm going to talk about in a minute, we want to be prepared. Now, we want to print out maps. If you are in a major metropolitan area, you don't necessarily have to print out maps, but I like to print out maps or at least view the maps on my computer, the overhead, the street view, the aerial view, the bird's eye view, really get a good feeling digitally on, are there major roads nearby? Are there apartment complexes? Is there a sewer plant across the street? These are all things that are going to end up impacting your purchasing decision. And with technology nowadays, it's really easy to do. So like I've got this house in Oklahoma pulled up. This is in Oklahoma, Durant, Oklahoma, North Avenue, North Third Avenue, house I was looking at today. This isn't the actual house; it's a couple streets over. But so I'm looking, and the first thing I see is what? Les Chateau apartments. All right. Apartments sometimes can have a negative impact on the property. I see Magnolia Cafe. I see a lot of businesses here. Okay, so that's got to be kind of a busy street. Old US 70, that looks like a busy street. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We got Mexican food restaurants. Looks like Highway 78 North First Avenue. Okay, but I'm a couple streets off of there. I don't really think that it's going to be influenced too much by the commercial district. So we'll just push on in. I like the lot lines on Google Maps. I'm seeing some larger lots. This one's on a pretty large lot. Got some apartment complexes across the street. Look like duplexes over here. I mean, hey, this could be a little potential for a rezone. Now I'm going to click on over to the satellite. Okay, we got clear apartments there, right? And look how large this lot is. You got a house, large driveway. I didn't mean to push in that far. Little, shed. I just want to kind of push out a little bit more. I got these apartments here. No other apartments doesn't look like on the street. Maybe some newer construction here. That looks like it could be an apartment building because it's got looks like a parking lot off to the side. Looks like we're only, a block and a half away from commercial. So it looks a little closer than I was thinking at first. There's my subject property. Just gonna push out a little bit more. So interesting trend in the neighborhood, right? We got these apartments. We got these apartments. We got these apartments. So when I start thinking about it, I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got, a decent sized lot. Maybe I can, maybe there's a rezone opportunity. Who knows? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop a street up or a block up and just kind of take a look. Nice little houses. We'll push up the street. There's the apartments. I went too far. We'll push back down the street. Remember, I saw that one that looked like it may be an apartment building. So let's see, that's a green roof, got a sidewalk all the way down. Yeah, so it's not an apartment building. That's actually just a nice house with a big driveway. So my property was down here. There's those apartments. Not the nicest looking apartments in the world, but not bad. I mean, you don't have a bunch of riffraff hanging around, no broken down vehicles, but clearly being across the street from an apartment building, there's that big house I was telling you about with the carriage garage. Being across the street from an apartment building is going to affect my property value if I decide to pursue this as a single family rental or some single family home, because those apartments will impact the value anyway. And we're going to talk about running the numbers in subsequent weeks, but those apartment complexes will impact the values, anywhere from 5 to 10%, unless I find, if I opt for this house, which is directly across from the same apartment complexes, or I find a comp for this house that's behind the apartment complexes, or this one that's across the street of Mulberry, or this one, if you see what I'm saying. I mean, we're really just trying to, the whole magic of running good comps is apples to apples comparisons. Last week, I on that big house I was telling you about, one of the issues was it was just outside of the Preston Hollow area, which in Dallas is a very popular neighborhood. So what I did is I started out at a quarter mile of, there we go, select all, sold 180. So I started out a quarter mile away from the subject property. Well, I knew that, you know, the difference between Hillcrest, right? These houses are actually in Preston Hollow. These houses are not in Preston Hollow, right? So here you got a 5-bedroom, 5-bath house that sold for $1.595 million. Well, this house is on the same street. It's a 5-bedroom, 5-bath as well, but I don't think it'll ever appraise for more than 950, right? So there's a pretty significant difference. There's 1.2, 1.8, 700. That may be a lot. Like, and so you just want to take some time to look through, you know, unoccupied since spring of 19. Da, 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 da. Cash purchase, 520,000. Someone bought that as a lot, and they're probably going to tear it. They probably already tore it down. So, I mean, that's just that. I mean, that's just what we do. You go through the comps and you spend time on your comps before you go to the house, doing your best to find anything that could impact the value of the house, intrinsic or implied. That way, when you arrive at the property, you are educated, you are smart. So, what I did is I narrowed all mine down to the properties in Brookshire Park because that's where mine is. And so now you got this one property that sold for 1,698 million. It's like, wow, okay. That's a great big old house. But then you look at it, right? Couple interesting things. Brand new construction in 2020, right? That's not comparable to a 1960s house. This house, if I remember correctly, is on a creek. I can't remember. 3-car garage, oversized master. Okay. So this is one of those, just nothing about this is comparable to my property. So uncheck it. And that's what I did last time. So, you know, I end up down here looking at these $970,000 listings because they were much more comparable to the home that I was looking at. So that's the whole point. I'm not going to beleaguer this slide, but you want to pull comps for 12 months and make sure that the comps you pull are comparable in nature. And if you don't know the area well, try to stick to the exact subdivision that that house is in. Look at the school districts, look for school district map lines and things like that. Look for investor activity. Many neighborhoods. So I'm not from Oklahoma. I haven't bought a house in Oklahoma in a long time. But what I did on this Oklahoma property that I'm working on, and I'm still waiting to hear back, is I emailed a buddy of mine that I know owns property in Oklahoma. And I asked him for, you know, hey, what do you think? What do you think you'd pay for a house like this? Still hadn't heard back. But, you know, that's the mindset, right? Because just like I'm telling you on this slide that I want you to look for investor activity, I'm looking for investor activity because if you find a house that the description or the pictures on MLS read kind of the same as you're picturing this house, and an investor bought it for 30,000, well, guess what? You become pretty confident. Number one, you can sell it for 30,000, and number two, you call the person that bought it and you say, hey, you want another? Anyway, major repairs. While you're on the phone with them, ask them, hey, is there major foundation? Is there a sewer issue? Does the roof need to be taken off? Many times they don't tell you anything, but I've had people tell me that houses need major termite damage work. I've had houses that were hit by tornadoes. I've had fire damaged properties, and all of these things are items that you want to kind of be aware of before you show up, because you may need to bring someone with you, right? You may need to bring a builder with you if you're thinking about if it was a tornado damaged house. You may need to bring a roofer with you. I mean, while you're new, there's nothing that stops you from bringing a foundation guy with you and a roofer with you. And if anything, it makes you appear more creditable because you're actually doing your due diligence on the spot versus stringing them along. And then always factor in travel time, because like I said, many times Bill will be sitting on the front porch waiting for you to arrive. And if you're late, it's just starts you on the wrong foot. So when you arrive at the appointment, drive the comparable cells before you go inside the house. So you have the MLS description, you have the pictures, you know where they're at. Go drive by them. Does that neighborhood feel like the neighborhood where the other property is, right? Does that neighborhood, or did you have to drive across a 6-lane side road to get there? And so I didn't say this, but you always drive past the subject property first. So if you're going to 123 Main Street, you go drive past 123 Main Street and don't slow down too much because, like I said, Bill may be on the front porch waiting on you. But if you're 15 to 30 minutes early, drive past the subject property first to get a good feel for that property, and then go drive by the comps and check them out and just see if the neighborhood you're in, where you're looking at the house, feels like the neighborhoods where the comps are. Because a lot of times what'll happen if you'll drive your comps, and many people don't, you will find a dead ringer. I mean, there's nothing different, right? It may be 50 to 100 square foot different, right? But it's the same school district, same side of the street, same this, same that. Like, it's all the same. So drive the comps, dress casual, not lazy. So you don't go look at a house in flip flops and shorts, I guess, unless you're in San Diego or Florida or something like that. But you also don't want to look like the banker, right? There's no need to wear a suit to look at someone's house. You can, and I've known people that do, but where I come across the best is when I'm wearing, here in Dallas, boots and jeans, and not a big redneck belt buckle or anything, but boots and jeans and a collared polo shirt. And I mean, I'll wear a ball cap because to a Texan, that just looks like someone that works for a living. And it just goes a long way to disarm them and make them think that you're just a hardworking guy that's out here to look at the house. Be nice, respect their territory. Remember, it's their house. A little psychological thing as well. When you pull up to the property, you don't want to block them in. So if there's a driveway that fits 2 cars and there's only 1 car in the driveway, it's okay to pull up next to that car. But if there's 2 cars in the driveway, I've seen people do a lot, you don't want to like pull in sideways where you block them in. It's just a psychological thing. It makes people feel trapped. It's something I learned in outside sales 20 years ago when I sold life insurance. So, pull up maybe a house or 2 down if you have to, or in front of the house on the, at the curb, and be ready, like I said, because sometimes they'll walk straight out to the car. But be early, dress clean and casual, not overly fancy, but not lazy. If you have a less blingy vehicle, take that. So I drive a big F-250, and even though those things cost $80,000, people don't think of them that way. And my wife drives a Mercedes something or another that's only a year old, and we don't go look at houses in her Mercedes. It's just oftentimes it just puts off this vibe of here's these rich people, and we just try to avoid that. I mean, I want to show up as kind of the good old boy. I want to remind them of their grandparents. Remember or their grandson. Remember we talked about building your avatar. So I'm the former Marine firefighter, fixer upper guy. And that's the character that works best for me. So find what makes you the most comfortable and roll with it. So walking the property, I say this all the time. Oh my goodness. They know what's wrong with the house. They don't need you to point out every little problem, right? At the same time, sometimes people can be delusional, right? And so what I'll do is I like to have a flashlight with me. It's out in my truck right now. And if I see something that I think they haven't seen, or something that contradicts what I've been told. So say they say, well, the roof's only a couple years old, and you're walking through a bedroom and there's a yellow stain on the ceiling, a roof stain. Well, something's leaked, right? Is it the roof? Is it the HVAC? Did it happen before the roof was replaced? These are all questions you could ask, but a lot of times they're right next to you. So if I see something that I don't think they've seen, or maybe that I'm going to use later in my negotiation, I'll pop that flashlight on and just kind of point at it and look at it. And if you've ever stood in the room with someone, if you point a flashlight at something and look at it, everyone in the room is going to look up at what the flashlight's pointing at, right? And many times they immediately become defensive. Oh, no, that was from before they'll start telling you. Sometimes they'll say, oh, well, yeah, the roof, the HVAC drain pan leaks. Oh, okay. But the HVAC is good, right? I mean, so little things. If there's a big 3-inch wide crack going diagonally up the wall, you don't need to say, oh my God, that's a big crack, right? I mean, that's just not needed. But if there's a hairline crack above this door and that door and this window, you just want to kind of grab your flashlight, take a look at it, and just you point it out without pointing it out. Look out for things from the moment you arrive, and as you're walking the property, look for things that you can talk about that have nothing to do with the property. For instance, I've told you I was in the Marine Corps. By the way, today is the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah. We all say happy birthday to ourselves. So world's finest fighting force has been doing it for 245 years today. But anyway, I'm a Marine. And so if I see a picture of a Marine in the house, I'm golden, right? I'm going to ask, who is that? I was in the Marine. We're going to have a big, long Marine talk. If I see an Army, Navy, whatever, I say, oh, who was that? Oh, yeah, I was in the Marine Corps. I find a way to use what's in their house to bring up something about me. You could have went to the same college as someone in their family. Played football. Your kids could go to the same school that their kids or grandkids go to. Look for bumper stickers on the cars. Look for pictures in the window. Look for pictures in the hall, or look around for something to talk about while you're walking the house, because it's disarming, right? If I'm in your house and we're talking about this, and every single looking at, right? This course is probably a bad example since that's what we're talking about. But if I'm in your house and we're talking about Dallas Christian School, the private school my children went to, or high school football because your son or grandson is playing high school football, or we're talking about this COVID mess, this and that. The whole point is you want to find things to talk about other than the house, because otherwise it becomes a very negative conversation and it's difficult to build rapport. And find things about your past or your present or your, I guess, future that make you creditable, and talk about those things. Make things that make you human, that make you not just the guy that's there to buy their house. At the end of the day, this may be the single most important part of the buy call process. That's what we call the buy call whenever we're looking at a house, because that is going to give you trust. And literally, those people that sold us the house last week for 500,000 said they trusted us. They met me for 30 minutes, but they trusted us because we were honest with them. We were talkative. We engaged. We looked them in the eyes. We used good personal body skills. And we paid attention. We didn't interrogate them. It says the 2-question rule here. When you're not interrogating someone and you're talking about things other than what's wrong with the house. I didn't tell the people how nasty the house was. I didn't tell the people how ugly I thought the cedar closet was that they built. They built a safe room. It's the most god awful thing you've seen in your life. They took an old closet and turned it into a double door that was hidden behind a mirror. And then they walled up the old hall closet, and then it was a cedar-lined closet safe room. It was horrendous. I said it was cool. They talked a lot about fur coats, and my wife and the lady did. The point is, look for things as you walk around the house, build rapport, make yourself a likable, relatable person so that you build trust. That rapport and that trust is the thing that will buy you houses, not how many skins you have on the wall. Many times, not the number. The number oftentimes doesn't matter. We're going to talk a lot next week about running numbers, but I'll tell you this. One of the most important lessons I learned in this business was what's a lot of money to some people isn't a lot of money to others. And in this business, we start thinking and negotiating in terms of $2,500 and $5,000 increments. Well, literally, I've had houses where, I'd offered $100,000 and they said, oh, we're going to need more. And there were 5 heirs. And I said, well, what, like another $1,000 a piece? And they go, oh, that'd be great. Right. So not another 5,000 a piece, another 1,000 a piece. So that extra $5,000 got me the house. I've had houses where they've asked for more and I was off by $500 because they had the payoff number in their mind and they wanted to walk away with $50,000. Like, that's just the way it goes. So pay attention, hear what they're saying, repeat what they're saying, have conversations about what they want to talk about as you walk around and look at the house. It really is a magical thing. Build rapport, treat them like people. Don't treat them like a transaction. This is a numbers game and a people business. The more people that call you, the more houses you'll see, the more houses you'll see, the more houses you'll buy. So it's a numbers game, but you're dealing with people and you've got to make it where you're good at dealing with people, where you're friendly and you actually genuinely do care, but not care so much that you're going to overpay for a house and then have to terminate and then ruin their year, if that makes sense. You'll want to have a field analysis worksheet with you, which is a PDF I'm going to give you to download. And you'll have that on your clipboard. I say bring a level if you have one, because I have literally had houses where like there was just obvious foundation work needed. I mean, the house, like I felt like I was like on roller skates in a bedroom, And the people say, oh, this house is level. And they say that because what happens is the house doesn't drop 2 inches overnight, right? The house slowly settles over 30 years. They get used to it. And so I apologize for all the yawning today. I don't know. I just haven't talked much today. So what happens is they get used to it. And so I've had literally to get my 4-foot level out of the truck, and I got a little rope I tie around the end of it and lay it on the ground. One, I've had to teach people how a level works, but many people know how a level works. And I've had to like literally lift the 4-foot level up to where, it's this far off the ground at the end of 4 feet in order to visually show them, no, this house is not level. I got a buddy that instead of levels, he carries marbles. So, you can do that, right? If you're not that comfortable with the level, take a couple marbles with you, because if you lay a marble down on a level house and let go of it, it stays still for the most part. If you lay a marble down on a house like I was in last week and let go, it rolls to the far corner of the house. So that's just another thing if you don't want to have a level. And I always take a video camera because you don't know how many times you're going to be able to access. Of course, nowadays, hopefully all of you have a smartphone where video cameras aren't that important anymore. But hey, maybe you don't. Yeah, so take a level and a video camera. All right, so the absolute most important thing is rapport. Next week, we're going to dive into, and it's probably going to be longer than an hour. I've got some spreadsheets we're going to pull up, and we're going to do some interactive conversation around numbers and determining the numbers and running rehab estimates. And we're also going to get into what do you offer. And I'm going to show you some matrices that I use that, through the years, I've had different buyers and I've had an acquisitions team and a dispositions team and all that. So over the years, I've had to systematize that. So I'm going to give you some kind of general rules of thumb that you'll have to adapt to your business. So when class notes, the lady was out of town sick last week that does the notes for me. She said I'll have them all tomorrow or the next day. So that'll be week 3 and 4. Week 1 and 2 are in the Wholesale Resource Center on timherridge.com. If you're having any trouble finding that, email me and I'll send you the link. But those notes will be up tomorrow, and the videos were posted today from week 3 and 4. So week 3 and 4 videos are up. Week 3 and 4 notes will be up, let's just say Thursday. And then this one, she is literally waiting for the recording. I'm going to email it to her. And she said I'd have those by the end of the week as well. So there you go. And then I'm going to add in the Wholesale Resource Center, what you're going to see by Friday. We're going to break it up into multiple pages because I'm going to put the notes and the links. So I'm going to embed the MP3s. I want to tell you, if you are someone that's never been in a sales job or would like some extra sales training, look up the Sandler Training Institute. They've got some really good courses. That's who HomeVestors uses for all of their sales training. And they had the Sandler Institute actually create a program for HomeVestors, but they've got a lot of outside sales training, building rapport, getting the upfront contract, and all that you can take online. So let's see. Yeah, so if you just go to Sandler, I had my son take some of them because he's kind of struggles with his interpersonal skills. There's some webinars, there's some white papers, some books, some podcasts. And then Solution, you can take their Sales Foundation, Sales Mastery, Negotiating Mastery, Sales Certification. It's expensive, but it's really good if you've never really been in sales or outside sales. They teach a lot of no pressure ways um, uh, to convert leads into sell. So this is the one I would recommend you take, the Sandler sales system plus the Sandler e-learning library. I'm not an affiliate or anything. It's something that it really helped a lot of my employees whenever I was with Home Investors. So yeah, it's just one of those things. If I were you, I would do it. If you've never really been in outside sales. The buy call checklist will be a PDF that I upload, and then the field analysis worksheet. I'm not actually giving you that this week. That'll be a part of next week's class. And then if you don't have comps access yet, you definitely want to go to i-rei.com or Propelio or one of these other comps providers and get access to your comps so that you can be ready. And you got to practice, right? Like, get on some of these wholesalers list, and when you get a lead from them, get the address and run comps and ask them when they're showing it, and show up and go through a walkthrough. And it's like batting practice. If you've ever really watched, oh my gosh, of course, that happened. So it's like batting practice, right? I mean, if you've ever really watched or been, involved in baseball, I mean, that they don't just line up and go hit, right? They go through batting practice before every game. And so I tell people all the time, and I've actually helped people do it, and get on some wholesalers list on some of these Facebook groups and stuff, and subscribe to their email marketing. And when they say the house at 123 Main Street's worth 150, run comps, see where you come in at. Act like you're a buyer. Email them, say, hey, I'm only getting 140. Where did you get 150? See what their comps were. So some of them are going to be full of it. Some of them are going to be like me, because I'm going to tell you where I got it. I'm going to tell you which houses are the most comparable to me. Or for me. So that's it. That's it for this week. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. I'll hang out for a minute or two. Thank you. Hey, Neil, I didn't want to go over the exact address, but I have a guy very interested in the deal you told me about. And so I would like to try to get more information about it. So you can call me afterwards, or if you want to get an appointment set up or get a video or some pictures where we could kind of talk some ballpark numbers, that would be good. Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you for the feedback, guys. I appreciate it. All right. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank a vet tomorrow. There's some pretty good guys out there. If any of you are veterans, thank you for your service.